Good afternoon and welcome all of you. So that is our today is day 5 and session second. I, Dr. Ravindra Pathak, on the behalf of the organization committee, welcome you all in the International Faculty Development Program on Trends in Automotive Technology, organized by Medicaps University, Vollo University, Galgothias University, and Satyabhama Institute of Science and Technology. Today, our speaker, Mr. Ravi Patel. Mr. Ravi Patel is currently working as an assistant professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering, Medicaps University. He has total around 10 years of industrial and teaching experience. His interest in research includes developing of new machines that can be contributing fulfilling today's requirement in the industrial and the society. He always active involves in maintenance and repair of commonly used machines, including generators, automobile engines, and two-wheelers to learn as well as utilize the knowledge of mechanical engineering. Practical exposure on sequential assembly or gasoline engines. So that is the today's topic of Professor Ravi Patel. So now I invite Ravi Patel sir for sharing the knowledge. Ravi Patel sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. So I shall start the presentation.
Yes, sir, please.
Sir, you can on your video also, sir.
Yes, sure. Sir. A very good afternoon to all. Today we will be having practical exposure on the gasoline engines. These engines are very widely used right now in these days. So we shall start the session now. We have 4 engines today to get the practical hands on them. So these are Bajaj, K Bajaj engine, it is an old version, TVS Victor, Hero Honda Glamour, and Yamaha YBR engine. So first of all, why we have choose only these engines? The reason behind is this: two-wheelers, bike use the engines are all having almost same design. So these engine can cover every engine of the two-wheeler bike. Now, the difference will come with the scooty or the gearless vehicles. So the gearless vehicle motorcycles need to be studied apart from these. But in that case, it is quite simple if we compare with this one. Moving further. So in our two-wheeler engine, we have divided it into 4 parts, 4 major parts of the engine. First is the head and the piston cylinder arrangement. The second one is the right cover, kick, clutch, engine oil pump, gear shift lever. The left cover of the engine comprises of the timing chain, self-start gears, magneto. Then if we remove all these 3 parts, the remaining is the gearbox of the engine. If we remove these 3 parts, the head piston, the right cover, the left cover, then all the parts can be removed, and then we have the main casing of the engine that contains the gearbox and all the important shafts which are used, which are capable of transmitting the power. Moving further, so this is a photo of a Hero Honda Glamour engine. In this, we can see the head part and the cylinder part that we are focusing right now. So this is the cylinder and the piston arrangement. And this part is the head part, which is having the valve for inlet and outlet. The timing of the valve can be controlled by this gear, which is directly connected to the crankshaft Here is the crankshaft. So moving into the inside part of these. So I have a piston of Hero Honda Splendor engine. This engine was recently built. So in this we can see 3 rings. The topmost ring, top 1, the second ring is top 2, and the third is the oil expander. So the main part of the engine is the piston cylinder assembly, which we are right now focusing. Piston cylinder assembly will work with a very microscopic machining. In this thing, I want to bring a point that there is a instruction given for a new engine. If we buy a new bike, we get a new bike. So the mechanic always say that drive it with a limited speed. Don't go above 40 kilometers per hour or 60 kilometers per hour. We use these sentences. So why these sentences are used? Because this part which I am handling right now is the sole responsible part for the power generation. So this part, if it gets weared off, this surface get wear, then there will be a excessive blow by and the vehicle will not produce the power. So we have another damaged part also to see, that this engine got failed due to excess wear of the piston. So we can see the mark on it. So this engine was seized and we have kept it for getting experience through this. Now, keeping the bike below 40 kilometers per hour, why they have told? Now we shall go with more detail in this. We have the topmost ring. We can see it over here. This is the topmost ring. So there is a cut on it. Here is the cut. I can show in my video. So this cut right now, it is visible as 4 to 5 mm, or I guess more than that. But when this part is assembled into the engine, this gap is of 0.2 mm. It is not more than 0.2 mm for a 2-inch piston. This is a 50 mm size piston. So this gap, which I am showing over here, it should be less than 0.2 mm. So in case if we ride this vehicle with high speed, this part will get heat up. Due to heat, this piston ring can get expanded. If it expands more than the limit, then this gap will be compensated. This gap will end up with 0 mm. And if we accelerate the vehicle more, in that case, the vehicle get heat up and the cylinder walls are weared excessively. To avoid this, we have to keep the vehicle a new vehicle with limited speed. Moving further. So this is a photo of silencer. Both the photos show the excessive wear of piston cylinder arrangement. The right side of the right image shows that there is some engine oil in the silencer itself. So for a 4-stroke vehicle, this is a damaged piston cylinder case in which it is not able to hold the engine oil in the crankcase. It is moving towards the combustion chamber. It is traveling through this passage and getting accumulated in the combustion chamber. So more of the fuel is burned and this engine oil is burned and thrown out into the silencer. So during running condition in traffic also we can see the same case. The left image can show when we are in when we are driving a vehicle and we can see the vehicle moving in front of us. So most of the vehicle have no smoke out through the silencer. But if it is giving a smoke out through the silencer, then we can say that the piston cylinder arrangement has been over weared and it has to be replaced or repaired. Moving further. So here we have the complete arrangement. I have removed the piston and kept the connecting rod. As you can see in my video, I have a connecting rod in my hand, and the same video is played on the screen now. So I am playing the video. Just you can observe the parts, how the parts are arranged in the engine. So connecting rod is connected to the crank. This is the complete is the crankshaft, which I am pointing by my finger. This is the connecting rod. Power is transmitted from the piston cylinder arrangement to this crankshaft. Now this crankshaft have 3 gears. This one is for timing chain. It will go to the camshaft. This one is to run the engine oil pump. We'll see in the practical part. And this gear is the main gear, which is transmitting the power to the clutch. So we can also see the clutch assembly. This area is the clutch. So moving further into the engine, this is the complete clutch arrangement in which the power has been transmitted. From the clutch, the power is transmitted to this shaft, complete shaft. So we are removing the clutch now. So this shaft will be having the power now, this shaft. That is called as the input shaft. So once we remove this clutch housing and clutch assembly, we'll get the input shaft. So we can see the input shaft in which the power is transported to the crankshaft. So this input shaft is directly meshed with the output shaft, which is on the left hand side, this shaft which I am marking over here. So this is the complete arrangement. Through crank, power goes to clutch. Through clutch, power goes to the input shaft. From input shaft, it goes to the output shaft. So here is the sprocket of the engine. So these are the two shafts which are inside the engine. One is the input shaft and another one is the output shaft. So by just observing these two, we can judge which one is the input shaft and which one is the output shaft. So in this diagram, I am telling you how to judge this. In this shaft, we have a spline over here. This spline we can see outside of the engine in the left hand side. When we are sitting on a bike, on the left hand side, we have chain sprocket. So the sprocket is mounted on this shaft over here. This shaft is having a quite longer length and it is having fine splines. So these splines are used to mount the clutch, as we have seen in the earlier video. These are the parts which are attached to the gear itself. Here we have slots for these parts, which are called as the fork, gear shifting fork. Gear shifting forks. So these fork shift the gear. One fork have a capacity of shifting 2 gears at different times. Let us say first gear and second gear. Then the other fork will also have 2 shifting options. Let us say third gear and fourth gear. So if a vehicle is having 5 gears, there must be 3 forks in the two-wheeler gearbox. So these forks are attached to the gear shifter drum, so which we will see in a practical video. Now moving further, removing the right case. So in the left image, we can see a complete engine of the vehicle. So we are removing the right case. So if we remove this case, right case, what we'll have, so if we remove the right case, we'll get the clutch, we'll have a kick shaft. Here is the kick, this is a clutch. We will have the engine oil pump and the main gear, from which power is transmitted from the crankshaft to the clutch. So right hand side is the main casing of the engine. So this is the major part of a two-wheeler engine, which contains lot of parts that are written over here. It is kick, clutch, engine oil pump, gear shifter, lever. Moving further, if we remove all these right hand side components, that is clutch housing, engine oil pump, the balancer wheel, and the kick. If we remove all these parts, so we'll get this as the gearbox. Now this is just the gearbox. We have removed all the parts. So what this gearbox is having inside, it is having a crankshaft, it is having the input shaft, it is having an output shaft, which is not visible from here. I'll show you in my video. Now, what does this lever do? It is a gear lever, right? On the left hand side of the bike, we can observe this lever. We have used it for changing the gears. So if we move this lever on either side, if we rotate it, what happens exactly in the engine, that we can see. So when you move this lever on the left hand side, this lever is turning. It is a bell crank lever and it is turning with the motion of that lever. So when the gear lever turns, this bell crank lever also turns with same proportion. So main function of this lever is to rotate the gear shifter drum. So this area where we can see 5 holes, pentagonal shape, star we call it, gear shifter star. So this gear shifter star rotates with the help of this lever. Now, in this view, we are not able to see the gear shifter lever because it is inside this clutch housing. So we'll remove the clutch housing now and we'll see this part. So I have my video is visible, which is
Yes,
showing.
sir. Your video is visible, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, so here is the right casing.
Sir, sorry, sir. Some echo is there.
Yes, sir. We are having 2 devices now.
Okay. Now you muted, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now audible, sir. Yeah.
I hope so. My voice is very clear now.
Yeah, it's very clear, sir.
Okay. So now we are moving to the right side casing. So we are removing the clutch. Here we'll have a 40 number bolt in this engine. Different engine may have a different bolt or nut. So I have removed the complete clutch assembly. This clutch assembly is free to rotate on the input shaft with the help of a sleeve. Now we can see the lever over here. This is the gear shifting lever, which I'm moving right now on my hand. So when you turn the lever on the left hand side gear lever, actually this lever turns up the gear shifting star. So gears are shifted through this. Right now, we can see this shaft is also rotating. So this is the output shaft and this is the input shaft of the gear. So we can shift gears through this star. I'm shifting it with my hand and this thing is done by the gear lever. Moving further, this is the engine oil pump to pressurize the engine oil and send it to the head and the crankshaft itself. We are using this engine oil pump. Through this engine oil pump, the oil travels through this hole, through the casing itself. Through the hole, oil travels into this crankshaft. So complete crankshaft and the crankshaft bearing get lubricated through this hole. So there is an oil seal also. If this oil seal get damaged, then oil is leaked and the engine will seize again and again. So the simple rubber oil seal is the most important thing. If we remove the kit, the gear, idler gear, and these gear, we get the simple casing which is having the gearbox. Now moving on to the left hand side casing. Okay. These are the component of the clutch itself. So how does a clutch operate? You can see now. So these are this is a boss on which we are pointing right now. Okay, my video is visible now.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So this is the boss, clutch boss. This is clutch center. These are the friction plates having friction lining on them. This is the pressure plate we call it, or the metal plates. So I am having the same component in my hands. So this is the clutch housing, which rotates freely on the input shaft. So how the power is transmitted to the input shaft? This is a big question. We'll answer it now. So friction plates are paired with the pressure plates together alternatively, and they are mounted on the boss. So if this boss is a little bit damaged, then it will not allow the plates to disengage easily. So in case if we are on first gear and if we are pressing the clutch, but the wheels are still having some power, it means that this part is damaged, boss. And also this part is damaged. So we have a damaged boss. You can see in my video, it is having grooves over here. So if these grooves are there, that means the gear will not disengage easily. If you are on first gear or second gear, if you press the clutch, then also the vehicle will have the power in the output wheel. So due to these grooves, it happens. that the clutch disengagement don't take easily. For the clutch disengagement to get easily, there is a small minute feature in the pressure plate. So the place where I am touching right now is very sharp. It is having a machined surface over here. And if I turn it upside down, then this surface is having fillet. It is not having machined surface, it is having fillet. So if I am rubbing my fingers over here, I am feeling very smooth in my fingers. But if I am rubbing my finger on the other side, it is having very sharp edges. All these teeth are very sharp towards this side. So how to put this pressure plate on the boss? So if we put it keeping the smooth surface inside, it will go very easily. It is going very easily because it is having fillet. So this is the wrong way of keeping the clutch. But if I turn this, it will be very tough for me to put this clutch. It is tough because it is not having fillet on the inside side and it is having the machined surface. So this is the right way to put the pressure plate on the clutch plate. It will make the clutch get disengaged easily. How I am saying this? Because the fillets are on the outer side. So if the fillets are on the outer side, it will easily come out. It will be very easy for the clutch to operate. When we are pressing the clutch lever, then it will free the wheel. And if we put it like this way, keeping the machined surface over here and the fillet inside, then it will be very tough for us to disengage the clutch. If we are pressing the lever, the vehicle will not have proper disengagement. So it was the very important feature that I wish to share over here. Moving further, how this clutch operates. So it is available in the video. Just a minute. Here it is. This is a single assembly of the friction and pressure plates, but when I'm pressing it down, if I'm pressing it down, all these friction plate are easily rotatable. I'm able to rotate all these friction plates. If you can see in the video on the screen. So these are the friction plates. Here I am holding and turning it. So it is turning freely. It means clutch is disengaged. If I am able to turn it like this, the clutch is disengaged. But if I release the spring pressure, then it is very tough for me to turn individual friction plates. The complete assembly is turning. So the complete assembly, if it is turning like this way, it will turn the clutch housing. Because this complete assembly which you are seeing in the video is assembled into this clutch housing. It is clutch housing which I am holding in my hand, and all the friction plates will be assembled in this with the complete assembly. Like this, it will assemble. So it will rotate the complete clutch housing. Moving further, this was the function of the right hand side of the engine. Now we are moving to the left hand side of the engine. So we haven't entered the core of the engine till now. We have only completed the right hand side of the casing. Right hand side case also have a kick, which I am showing in the image. So kick have one-sided teeth. So the kick is having one-sided teeth over here. So if I try to rotate this gear, I'm successful doing so. But if I try to rotate this gear on the opposite side, it's just rotating the complete assembly. So this is how kick works. When you apply the force on the kick lever, it turns this complete lever through almost half rotation, more than 120 degree, less than 180 degree. It rotates this kick with half rotation of this kick, the crank is rotated by 6 rotations. It will have 6 rotation with respect to half rotation of this kick. So in 6 rotation, we'll have at least probability hai ki we will have two spark or minimum 1 spark in which the engine gets start. And sometimes it is half kick when the engine gets start, because the 4-stroke needs only 2 rotations. But here this kick can turn the vehicle for 6 rotations. So you can have 3 spark at a time in a single kick. Moving further into the left hand side of the casing of the engine. So we have just now completed the right hand side of the casing. Now we are moving to the left hand side of the casing. So left hand side of the case, I have removed it over here, will have a magneto. This is a magneto which generates electrical power. It generates alternating current. Alternating current is generated in this magneto. So when the engine runs at, let us say 1500 RPM, engine minimum RPM in two-wheeler is 1500 RPM. So when the engine runs at 1500 RPM, it generates about 36 volts of alternating current. More than that, it is converted into DC voltage of 12 volts and sent to the battery for charging purpose. Also, this power is sent to the spark plug after a high tension coil for generating 10,000 volts voltage, and then it is sent to the engine for spark. So the main current generated is through this coil. If this coil get damaged, then also engine can run, but up till the battery is having the power. When the battery get down, the vehicle will get shut. The engine will get dead. Now, the left casing is having the engine magneto. A sprocket over here we can see, sorry, it is a gear. We can see over here. This gear will be turned by the cell start motor. So cell start motor is located where I'm pointing right now in the image. So this cell start motor will turn a very big wheel. This very big wheel again will be mounted by a compound gear and turning the largest size wheel over here. So almost 30 times the torque is increased and 30 times the velocity is decreased. So the engine RPM is around 800 RPM when we put the cell start. So out of that 800 RPM, the cell start motor rotates 30 times of 800 RPM, that is 24,000 RPM. It will rotate at very high RPM. On the left hand side, we also have the gear, timing gear we call it, as I'm pointing on the image. So when we remove the left hand side casing and left hand side covers, we can see the timing gear. We can also see the magnet. We can see the coil, magneto coil, and the cell start arrangement. All these things are visible over here. So left hand side, we also have a lever. Here we have the gear shifting lever. This rod which I'm showing over here, this shaft is having splines and a lever is attached over here, which is a gear shifting lever. So we have seen this video earlier in which gear shifting lever working is described. Now moving on to the magneto. So this is the magnet which turns over the coil and generates electric power. So when we apply the self motor is given 12 volts of current, then it will try to rotate the complete engine through this magnet. It will try to rotate this magnet. Once the engine is start, there is no chance of disengagement. So the engine will turn the motor and the power will transmit in opposite direction. To avoid such situation, we have a free wheel in this magnet itself. So we can see the free wheel function over here easily. So I am able to rotate the wheel which is attached to the cell start motor without turning the magnet. But if I rotate in opposite direction, it will turn the magnet. So one side it is completely coupled and the other side it is not. So if this area is not done oiling, greasing for let us say 5 to 6 years, then you will get a sound of motor just when you kill the engine. If you turn the ignition key off, you will have a sound of this electric motor, self-start motor. So it is due to the freewheel not working properly. Now to know more about this magnet, we'll be going to see the video.
I guess now my voice is clear.
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Okay. So we are moving to the left hand side of the casing. So this is the coil and this is the magnet. So I have removed the magnet over here. On the other side, we have the freewheel arrangement, which are capable of locking this wheel. So I should remove the left hand side casing. I have a spacer in my hand, a compound gear. So this shaft is the self-start motor shaft. Here is the self-start motor, which turns this shaft, which turns in result this gear. This gear turns the big wheel, which is directly mounted on magnet. So if the self-start motor is on, then this magnet will rotate. If the engine is on, then engine will continue running, but it will not rotate the self-start motor. So this is the function of a free wheel. Moving further, on the left-hand side casing. This is the left-hand side of the engine. So here we have gear shifting lever. We have removed the magnet and its ball bearing. Now we can see three major boards over here. So most of the engine which are silent and running, like Hero Honda Splendor, Hero Honda Stunner, Hero Honda Stunner, Hero Honda Glamour, these engines are very silent. So the reason behind this is these three bolts and the clips. So these bolts keep the bearing completely tight into the casing. No vibration is being transmitted through these bearing seals. So these bolts are the reason why the Hero Honda Stunner and Hero Honda Glamour engine are so silent and running. These three bolts are the reason. If we remove these bolts, we get the crank bearing over here. Now, I'll again attach the magnet back to its place to understand some more feature in this. So I'm placing this back. So how it is attached on this? It is attached with a key. There is a key over here. I'm pointing it with my finger. So through this key, the crankshaft is attached to the magnet. It will rotate with 1:1 speed. There is no slippage at all until the key is being crushed. So if I rotate this magnet, the sprocket is also rotating over here. It is connected by a timing chain. So what does this timing chain do? This I'm gonna tell you. When we turn this, so two rotation for this magnet. There are two rotation for this magnet. There will be single rotation for this sprocket because it is attached to the camshaft. Here we have camshaft in the engine head. So for two rotation of this, we have one rotation of the timing chain. So now moving to the further timing of this gear. So I'm telling about the timing. For this, we need to focus.
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
some echo is there in your voice.
Okay, just a minute, I'll check. एक minute.
Hope so it will be clear now, sir.
Now it's better, sir, compared with old. You can proceed, sir.
Okay, my speaker was on, I guess, from the laptop.
Yeah, you can proceed, sir. No issues.
Yes, sir, sure. So moving further, we have something written over here. We can focus. Two things are written over there: timing. Sorry, it is top dead center and the fire F. So this position is having a magnet over it. Small magnet is there, a very small magnet. This small magnet gives the signal to the pickup coil from which the spark timing is decided. So when this small magnet pass through this coil, this is a coil, then the current is sent to the spark plug CDI through which spark is generated. So there is a small gap in the top dead center and the fire. Now I am moving this top dead center to the top side here towards the piston. So there is a sign over here which we can match with the T. So I'm matching this with T. Here I match. So when T is matched with this sign, we'll have the correct timing of the piston. Matching this T with the sign means that the piston is at the top dead center. It is over here. So if we open this head, we'll get the top dead center. I'll try to open this now. Right now I'm opening the chain tensioner. By opening these two bolts, the chain will get very loose. So it will be very easy for me to throw the timing gear out. So it is very loose now. Earlier it was very tight. So this is the timing gear which is having a mark. Now, once we have removed the timing, we can easily pull the head out. So this is the head, which is having a gasket. There are two dowels through which the head and the block are getting a single alignment, single perfect alignment. So I'm removing the cylinder block also. So there will be a paper gasket over here, which I have removed earlier. This is just for demonstration purpose. Okay. So we have reached to a position when we are only having the gearbox in our hand. We have removed the piston cylinder alignment. This is it. The cylinder and the piston has been removed. Piston is attached with the crank itself. So once we open this lock, we can throw the gudgeon pin out and we can remove the piston out. Moving further, once we have removed the front portion, we can also remove the stud. We can pull them off, we can rotate them, and it will come out to the room. So the stud can also be removed. So what we have done till now in this assembly, we have removed the left casing, we have removed the piston cylinder alignment. We have also learned to remove the right hand side casing. This is the right hand side casing. We can remove the right hand side casing also. So by removing these three casings, we will directly reach to the main crank area. So that we will see further in the another video.
Okay. So now moving further, we can go to the core of the engine where we have the shaft. Okay, so my screen is showing the right hand side casing which has been removed. On the left image, we can see that the right hand side casing is attached. Here, these two casing are attached, right? Engine casing. Now I am removing this right case. Earlier we have removed the right cover. Cover we removed. Now we are removing the right case. So when we remove the right case on this image, we can see that right case has been removed. We can see the crankshaft, the connecting rod, star, gear shifter star, the input shaft and the output shaft. So all these shafts are clearly visible in this. If we remove the left hand side case, earlier I have shown you removing the right hand side case. This right hand side case is removed, right casing is removed. If we remove this left case, in that case, this will be the view. So this is another view in which I have removed the left case. So there is no difference. Ultimately, the complete disassembling need to be done by removing either of the case. If we remove left case, we'll be able to see all the gear, crankshaft, gear shifter, drum. You can see over here, we are able to see all the gears. But if we remove the right case, we are not able to see these gears clearly, because one casing is quite deep and the other casing is shallow. So I have removed the shallow casing over here. So all these assembly is well kept in this deep casing. But in this case, I have removed the deep casing and the assembly is attached to the shallow casing. So this is the difference. So we are moving to the video again.
check. So this is the right casing. I'll show you. So after removing the piston cylinder arrangement, the left, the right cover and the left cover, all these covers are removed. Then we'll have the gearbox, the main gearbox of the engine. So now I'm gonna remove one casing out of this. Any one casing can be removed. For every engine, it is same procedure, but only difference is which casing to be removed. This comes out through practice, or the complete arrangement will fall. So here I am removing the right casing without letting anything fall. So now we'll see what the component this engine is having inside the casing. So this is the core of the engine. It is rarely opened during the maintenance. Most of the time piston cylinder arrangement are opened. This arrangement need not to be opened. This is to be removed. This casing is removed when there is damaged crank bearing. If the crank bearing is making some sound, uneven sound while running, then we need to remove this bearing. To remove this bearing, we have to open this casing. There is another damage of this connecting rod. So this connecting rod is having a play. Very slight movement is there, but it is enough for making noise, abnormal sound in the engine. So when the connecting rod gets damaged, weared off, then also we need to open this casing. Another reason to open this casing is when one of the gear, like third gear or fourth gear, when one of the gear is not operating well, when we go to a third gear, it is producing abnormal sound and the power is not transmitted, vehicle is doing lot of noise and the gear is not getting engaged. Let us say third gear. So every time you apply third gear, the vehicle is getting lot of abnormal noise, but it is not having power in the wheels. Then in that case, we need to open these gears. So here is the gear shifter drum. When I am rotating it, it is allowing the fork to move. So I'll remove this and show you. So I have removed the forks and we can easily get the shaft out. Here it is. So these are two shafts. We can judge which one is input shaft, which one is output. This is the input shaft because it is having a longer side and lines. Now I'll show you the other shaft. This is the output shaft because it is having smaller size and these lines show this lines are out of the engine where we attach the sprocket left hand side of the engine. Chain sprocket is attached to this spline only. Everyone has seen this spline on the left hand side of the engine. And this shaft is the input shaft. So both these shafts are attached like this that I am showing like this. So input shaft, output shaft. This is the first gear of input shaft, first gear of output shaft. This is the second gear. This is second gear of input shaft, second gear of output shaft. This is the third gear of input shaft, third gear of output shaft. These will be mesh all time. It is a sliding mesh gearbox like this. To keep this gearbox on neutral, we need to move them such that these dogs don't touch each other. None of the dogs touch each other. If any of the dog will touch, then the gear will be engaged. This is the neutral position where none of the shaft are, none of the dogs are touching each other. We can have gear shifter drum in which these forks travel all along. So these forks, what does these forks do is when we rotate the drum, these forks travel through these grooves and they have a lateral movement. These lateral movements can allow them to move the gears. So one fork is moving this gear and the other fork is moving this. I hope it is clear. One fork is moving this gear and the other fork is moving this. So this is the main function of the gear inside the gearbox. Now, some gear will have a smooth surface inside, while the other gear will have splines inside. So this is how the gear shifting and gear shaft working takes place. So this is having a spline on the inner side, but this is having a smooth surface on the inner side. So what does it mean is, if this gear is attached to this shaft, it will rotate with the shaft. It will lock with the shaft and it will rotate. But if we talk about a smooth gear, it will rotate on bearing like this. It will not lock with the shaft. So this is the way how a gearbox works. So this we can understand easily in the screen. Okay. So moving further, I have two gears in my hand. One is having a smooth hole inside, while the other one is having splines inside. There are splines. So from this we can understand how the gearbox shifting works. So if I mesh these two gears, it means one is on input shaft and another one is output shaft. Power will not be transmitted. Why power will be not be transmitted? Because if this shaft rotates with the spline, this gear will rotate smoothly on the shaft. So power will not be transmitted. But in case another gear here, in case another gear is over here, it moves and it travels inside the groove made on this. If another gear can move and travel inside the groove, then this dog, I'll show you the dogs here. You can see, I guess, yeah, these three dogs, if they can travel inside this of another gear, then this gear will also get mounted on this shaft. So power will be transmitted at this condition. Now, like this, it can get engaged. So to see this thing, we can bring the lay shaft, both the input and output shaft, and we can see, we can judge the same thing through that. So I guess it is over from my side. I have discussed the complete part of the engine. And if there is any question, then we can repeat any of the part to this. Anything that you can ask related to practical, I will be happy to answer. So this is the last part which I am able to, which I am showing over here. So we can see this shaft, this topmost gear I am moving with finger. So this moving part is done by the gear shifting drum, and it is able to engage any of the gear or this one.
Sir, please can you make
Please pardon, sir.
Deepak as a host?
Sir, please pardon.
Please can you make J.R. Deepak as a co-host? Sir?
Okay,
Please
Deepak, sir, we have to take only Deepak, sir, right?
please make J.R. Deepak as a co-host.
J.R. Deepak, right, sir?
Yes, sir. J.R. Deepak.
Yes, sir, I have made. Done, sir. Do we have 5 more minutes or we have to end the class at time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I shall continue for 5 more minutes. So in this gearbox, we were discussing.
Yeah. Deepak, sir, you can proceed, sir. Sir, if you wish, if you want, you can take 5 more minutes also, sir. No problem.
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, sir.
So in this gearbox, the topmost gear I am showing, which can move along the horizontal line, it can move towards the right and to the left. So by moving in this direction, it will lock either of these two gears. So either it will apply the second gear moving this side, or it will apply the third gear moving towards this side. So by moving this gear, we can apply two gears, one at a time. So this is how the gearbox of the two-wheeler works. So I think we have discussed the complete gearbox in short. So if any question from any side, anyone, I'll be happy to answer. We can go through.
Questions to the
No
speaker.
questions, right? Okay, so have a nice day, and it was very nice to share the knowledge between very nice audience, intelligent audience. And if there is any question, we can still wait for a minute, or then we can end the meeting.
So there is a
Participants, if
chat.
you have any doubts, you can raise your hands, participants.
So Ram Krishna has raised his hand. So let me just
Okay, sir.
yeah, just a minute. Ram Krishna.
Ram Krishna, sir, please raise your hand again. Sir, you can please raise your hand again.
Yes, so you can please unmute yourself and you can.
Haan,
ask
sir,
the question.
very nice presentation. As in this faculty development program, I have seen such a first time that you have shown all the parts of the engine. So this is very knowledgeful, and actually I feel as like a student, so that I get all the parts in detail. So thank you, sir. Very knowledgeful session. I seen as a very detailed parts of the engines. So I am very happy that you have very conducted neatly the IC engine part. So thankful for that one.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Your words mean a lot to me, and really it motivated me to work more, and I'll be try to give more information to another session like this. Thank you, sir.
If possible, sir, will you share the today's recorded session on the group or on the Zoom meeting, so that
Sure,
it
sir.
will be.
We can drop a recording link over there, drive link, and we can allow you to view or download the video. Sure, sir.
Sir, that will be beneficial to the students also. When I'll teach to the students, so it will be also very beneficial to the students also.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So there is a question from Lake Raj. So
Right, sir.
can you please tell something about clutchless bike from TVS and gear shifting?
Okay. Though the recent vehicle we have gearless vehicle, right, which don't have the clutch on the hand, like Activa or Scooty. Is it the same question, sir?
Yes.
So in that case, it is a quite easier engine. I should have taken it today itself, but it was very less time, so I have not covered that. Activa have a different component than the usual gear. It will have a belt drive, and this belt will be inside the groove, which I am able to move right now. So belt will be running through this area. It is called as CVT, Continuous Variable Transmission System. So engine will rotate this complete arrangement. When you pull the accelerator, it will rotate this complete arrangement on the bearing. So here is a bearing. I'm able to put my finger and move it on it. So when this part move with high speed, these three shoes, there are three shoes here. Friction lining is also there. So these shoes get expanded, just like brakes, drum brakes. So when these shoes get expanded, they attach with the drum, and it allows the drum to rotate along with this. So when you accelerate after a certain limit, the friction force dominate, and it will rotate the wheel. So this is how, without operating a clutch manually, it is an automatic clutch, centrifugal clutch we call it, it works. And through this centrifugal clutch, the power is transmitted to the rear wheel of the Activa or TVS or Jupiter vehicle like this. And for gear ratios, automatic gear ratios are done by this pulley arrangement. I am able to move this pulley with lot of power through my finger. So lot of effort is required to do this. But while running the vehicle, this happens automatically by a CVT, Continuous Variable Transmission System. When these two blades are pulled apart, so the belt can travel inside this pulley, and that will result in a smaller diameter of this pulley. And for larger diameter, it will come automatically outward. So this is how gears are changed in the Activa through CVT, and how the clutch works in Activa through centrifugal force. So it depends on speed. So for example, if you are sitting tripling on Activa, 3% sitting on Activa, and if you accelerate, it won't move so easily from its position because resisting force is very high. So you need a great amount of accelerator to run these brake shoe out, dominate on the wheels, and move the vehicle further. So it is very good question from Lekra sir. Thank you, sir, for asking such question.
Thank you, sir. And there is one more question being raised by D. Bhaskar. Can you please elaborate about camless engine? Sir, camless engine.
If we don't have a overhead camshaft, OHC we call it, the engine which I have showed all are having overhead camshaft. So if we don't have these, then the valves are to be operated by pushing rods. So in that case also, I guess the camshafts are mounted on the crankshaft itself, like in Bullet. Bullet engine is totally different from these engines which I have shown right now. They have totally different arrangement. From left hand side, all the arrangement transfers to the right hand side, and from the right hand side, arrangement are transferred to the left hand side in the Bullet engine. In that case, the overhead camshaft are not used, and their push rod are being used. This much from my side, sir.
So thank you, sir. Thank you. And I think these are the questions in the chat box. And I just wanted to conclude that thank you so much, Mr. Ravi Patel, for giving us a wonderful session. Practical, it's a 100% practical exposure session, which was very interesting. You made things very simple to understand the assembly of gasoline engines. So thank you so much, sir, for making this possible. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yes. So there are few more. Yeah, it's all thank you in the chat box. So no more questions. So can we end up the session, sir?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah.
It is already, I have taken 10 more minutes. So
That's all right,
thanks a
sir.
lot for being so patient in listening. And it was very easy for me to go through and deliver all these things because of the cooperation and the support of sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I shall end the meeting.
Yes, sir. Prabhakar, sir, would you like to give any announcement regarding tomorrow's session?
Yes, sir. You can end the session. Sir, tomorrow morning, like again, two faculties they're going to take the session, sir. First one is J. Prabhakar. Okay, he is going to take on the topic of current status and outlook of for alternate fuels for IC engines. And next one is B.N. Agarwal. He is going to take on combustion characteristics. So this is the update for the tomorrow session. So with this, I want to thank our today's chief guest, Ravi Patel, sir. It was an excellent session because it's a practical one. So because most of the faculties, they have to upgrade, means they have to know something practical, which is in the industry. So these sessions make all the faculty persons to make some touch with the practical one with the theory one. So I want to personally thank you, sir, for this excellent presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And I'll be waiting for more such programs in which we can learn through the intelligent part of the and experience of the faculties. So thanks a lot for such a good program and giving a platform to share the knowledge. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. We'll end up the session.
Okay.
Sir, you can wind up the session, sir.